The observation deck of the ES Valiant looked out over the debris field where the battle had been fought. Pieces of ships, both human and Kryn, floated in the darkness like forgotten memories. Admiral Patricia Hayes stood there alone, watching the salvage crews work to recover bodies from the wreckage. She heard footsteps behind her. Without turning, she knew who it was. Council Speaker Vornathus had requested this meeting an hour ago. "Your people saved us," Vornathus said quietly as he approached. His silver scales looked dimmer than usual and his movements were slow. "And you paid a terrible price." Patricia finally turned to face him. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep and perhaps from tears she would never admit to crying. 3,247 people. I knew many of them personally. Lieutenant Danny Torres was supposed to get married next month. Commander Amy Sullivan had plans to retire and teach at the academy. Captain Steve Burke was going to meet his first grandchild next year. Every single one of them matters. "Then why did you fight so recklessly?" Vornathus asked. "Your tactics seemed to assume casualties were acceptable. You used your ships as weapons. You sent soldiers into situations where survival was nearly impossible." Patricia was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was firm. "You think we do not value life because we are willing to risk it? That is where you misunderstand us, Speaker. We fight so hard precisely because life matters. Every single person on those ships knew the odds. They came anyway because that is what humans do when someone needs help." She gestured at the planet below. 8 million people are alive down there because we chose to act. Yes, we lost 3,000. That hurts more than you can imagine. But if we had waited for reinforcements like your admiral suggested, those 8 million would be dead. We made a choice. We always make choices. Vornathus sat down slowly, his legs folding beneath him.
"Help me understand."
"My species evolved as prey. We survived by hiding, by running, by avoiding conflict. When we developed intelligence, we used it to create peace because that was our nature. But you evolved as hunters. How do you reconcile that with building a peaceful civilization?" "We evolved as pack hunters," Patricia corrected him. "That is different from being solitary predators. Yes, we hunted other animals, but we also formed tribes. We protected each other. We shared food. We cared for our wounded. Those instincts are just as strong as our hunting instincts." She sat down beside him, both of them looking out at the stars. "Humans can be violent when needed, but we can also be gentle, creative, and compassionate. We contain multitudes, Speaker. We are warriors and poets, soldiers and teachers, killers and healers, sometimes all in the same person." Down on Chorus 7, Commodore Jake Morrison was helping coordinate relief efforts. The colony had survived, but it was damaged. Buildings destroyed, infrastructure broken, and people traumatized by coming so close to extinction. A young Then named Krillix approached him. The Then were small reptilian beings with large eyes and delicate hands. This one was a child, no more than 10 cycles old by her appearance. "Why did you help us?" Krillix asked. "You did not know us. We are not your species. Why did humans die to save us?" Jake knelt down to be at her eye level. "Because that is what friends do. When someone is in trouble, you help them. It does not matter if they are the same species or not. But 3,000 humans died. Yes. And we will remember every one of them. But if we had not come, 8 million Then would have died, including you. Was your life worth saving?" Krillix nodded slowly. "Then there is your answer. Every life has value. Human lives, then lives, all lives. We protect what we can, even when it costs us dearly." The child hugged him suddenly, her small arms barely reaching around him. Jake felt tears threatening and blinked them away. This was why they fought. For moments like this, Dr. Greg Palmer was giving a lecture to the Galactic Council's military academy. The room was packed with officers from dozens of species, all wanting to understand what had happened at Chorus 7. "You keep asking what makes humans effective warriors," Greg said, pacing in front of the display screen. "You want to know our secret. But there is no secret. We are persistence predators. That means more than just chasing prey until it collapses. It means we do not give up." He pulled up images from the battle. When Commander Sullivan's squadron was outnumbered, did they retreat? No, they adapted. When Captain Burke's ship was damaged, did he withdraw? No, he used that damage as a weapon. When Lieutenant Torres's Marines ran out of ammunition, did they surrender? No, they picked up enemy weapons and kept fighting. "But that seems inefficient," objected a Centrosian officer. "A tactical retreat would have saved lives. Perhaps, but it would also have given the enemy time to regroup and adapt. Humans understand something fundamental about warfare. Momentum matters. Once you have an enemy on their heels, you keep pressing. You do not let them recover. That is how predators hunt, and that is how humans fight. Greg switched to a new slide showing human evolutionary history. For 2 million years, humans survived by being stubborn. When food was scarce, we did not give up. When predators hunted us, we hunted back. When the environment tried to kill us, we adapted and spread across the entire planet. That same stubbornness is in our DNA. When we commit to something, we see it through. A question came from the back. But how do you maintain a peaceful society with such violent instincts? Because we choose to, Greg answered simply. Every day, every moment, humans make choices. We can be violent or peaceful, selfish or generous, cruel or kind. We have all those capabilities. What matters is which ones we choose to act on. Lisa Warren, now Earth's chief ambassador, was preparing for the most important speech of her career. The Galactic Council was holding a vote on humanity's status. The provisional membership period was supposed to last 10 cycles, but after the Battle of Chorus 7, everything had changed. She stood before the full council assembly, every species represented. The chamber was silent, waiting for her to speak. 6 months ago, you granted humanity provisional membership because you were afraid of us, Lisa began. You saw predators, hunters, killers. You were not wrong. We are all those things when we need to be. She paused, letting that sink in. But you also saw us fight to protect your colonies. You saw us sacrifice our ships and our people for civilians we had never met. You saw us stand beside you when others would have run. So now you must decide, what kind of species are we really? We are warriors, yes. But we are also protectors. We are capable of great violence, but also great compassion. We have fought thousands of wars among ourselves, but we have also built art and music and philosophy. We contain contradictions because life is contradictory. Lisa's voice grew stronger. You asked if you could trust us not to bring violence to your federation. Here is our answer. We will bring violence to those who threaten peace. We will fight with everything we have to protect the innocent, and we will stand beside anyone who shares those values. The question is not whether you can trust us. The question is whether you are ready to have us as true friends. Because friendship with humans means something. It means we will fight for you. It means we will die for you if necessary. And it means we expect the same loyalty in return. The galaxy is bigger and more dangerous than you believed. The Kryn proved that. There are other threats out there waiting in the darkness. You can face them alone with your peaceful ways and defensive tactics, or you can face them with us beside you, with all our terrible gifts turned toward protecting what we both value. So I ask you now, will you accept humanity not as provisional members to be monitored and restricted, but as true partners in the Galactic Council? The vote took 3 hours. When it was done, the result was unanimous. Humanity was granted full membership status with no restrictions. More than that, human military advisors were requested by 34 different species who suddenly realized that 12,000 years of peace had left them vulnerable. Commander Zreltoth, who had started this all by rescuing the Endeavor, met with Jake Morrison one final time before the human fleet returned to Earth. I was afraid of your species when we first met, Zreltoth admitted. I saw predators, hunters, killers. Jake nodded. You were not wrong. We are all those things when we need to be. But you are also protectors, healers, and friends. How do you balance such opposing natures? Jake smiled. We choose which one we want to be. Every day, every moment we make that choice. Sometimes we have to be warriors to protect what we love, but we never forget that the goal is peace, not war. That is what makes us human. As the human fleet prepared to jump to faster than light speed, every council vessel in the system powered their engines in salute. The lights from thousands of ships created a display visible across the entire star system. It was unprecedented, but then again, so was humanity. The galaxy had discovered its most terrifying warrior species. But more importantly, it had discovered that the fiercest fighters often made the most loyal friends. And in a universe that was far larger and more dangerous than anyone had believed, that friendship would prove to be humanity's greatest gift to the stars. On Earth, families mourned their dead. 3,247 names were added to a memorial that would stand for. The Battle of Chorus 7 started with a maneuver that shocked both the Council fleet and the Kryn hive. Instead of forming a defensive line like every other species would have done, The human ship split into 3 groups and accelerated directly into the thickest part of the enemy formation. Admiral Patricia Hayes watched her tactical display as the plan unfolded. Alpha Group, swing wide and target their coordination nodes. Bravo Group, straight down the middle, maximum aggression. Charlie Group, URR hammer. Wait for my signal. Commander Amy Sullivan led Alpha Group, 12 fighter squadrons dancing between massive Kryn vessels. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced ease, her fighter responding like an extension of her body. Behind her, 200 other pilots followed her lead. All fighters, remember your training. These things are big and mean, but they are slow. Use that. Hit the communication clusters Greg identified, the ones that glow blue. Break their network. A Kryn vessel loomed ahead, its organic hull pulsing with bioluminescence. Amy's targeting computer locked on and she fired. The missile streaked through space and impacted directly on a cluster of blue nodes. The explosion rippled across the ship's surface. Direct hit. That one just went dark. Keep it up, people. The Kryn responded by launching thousands of smaller fighters, creatures no bigger than cars with wings and natural weapons. But they flew in predictable patterns like birds following instinct. Amy saw the pattern immediately. They are coming in waves, always from the same angle. Adjust formation, spread vertical. Let them come to us, then close the trap. The human fighters scattered in 3 dimensions. The Kryn fighters flew into the space where the humans had been, found nothing and hesitated. In that moment of confusion, the humans struck from above and below simultaneously. That is for Earth, Amy whispered, as her weapons tore through a dozen enemy fighters. Meanwhile, Bravo Group was doing something that made the council officers watching think humans had lost their minds. Led by Captain Steve Burke on the EAS Marathon, they were ramming Kryn vessels. All power to forward shields, Steve ordered. Impact in 5 seconds. The Marathon's reinforced bow struck a Kryn cruiser at full speed. The organic ship crumpled like paper, its internal structures rupturing. The Marathon's shields held barely, and the ship emerged from the debris cloud already targeting its next victim. Hull integrity at 60%, his tactical officer reported. Forward shield generators are overheating. We can do one more. Line up that command ship, the big one. Sir, another impact will tear us apart. Then we better make it count. Steve was not suicidal. He was calculating. His ship was already damaged beyond quick repair. But if they could take out that command ship, they could disrupt an entire section of the Kryn fleet. 1 ship for 50. That was a trade worth making. The Marathon accelerated again. The Kryn command ship tried to evade, but it was too large and slow. The impact was catastrophic. The Marathon's bow crumpled, its forward sections vaporizing from the collision, but the command ship split in half, its biological systems failing all at once. Steve's crew managed to evacuate to escape pods seconds before the Marathon broke apart. As he floated in his pod watching his ship die, Steve smiled. Worth it, he said into his radio. Patricia saw the Marathon's sacrifice on her display. She felt a moment of grief for the ship and its captain, but she could not stop to mourn. Not yet. Charlie Group now. Hit them while they are disorganized. Charlie Group had been hanging back looking like a reserve force. The Kryn had ignored them, focusing on the more aggressive Alpha and Bravo groups. That was their mistake. 24 ships suddenly appeared in the middle of the Kryn formation. They had used micro-jumps, short faster-than-light hops that the Council thought were too dangerous for combat. The humans did it anyway. The Kryn fleet, already reeling from Amy's attacks and the Marathon's ramming run, suddenly had enemies in their midst. Charlie Group opened fire at point-blank range, their weapons ripping through organic hulls before the Kryn could respond. But the real terror began when Lieutenant Danny Torres and his Marines started boarding Kryn vessels, not the transport ship ES. Intrepid pulled alongside a damaged Kryn cruiser. Magnetic clamps locked the 2 ships together, and cutting tools began burning through the organic hull. Go, 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 Danny shouted as the breach opened. Marines poured through the opening in zero gravity, their suits equipped with magnetic boots and maneuvering jets. They carried weapons designed for close combat, shotguns loaded with armor-piercing rounds, plasma cutters that doubled as weapons, and good old-fashioned combat knives. The interior of a Kryn ship was a nightmare of organic corridors and living walls. The air was thick with spores, and the temperature was hot enough to make Danny sweat inside his suit. Kryn warriors waited for them, creatures that looked like giant praying mantises with razor-sharp limbs. The first warrior that charged Danny died before it got within 10 feet. The second one reached him, and he had to dodge its bladed arms while drawing his knife. The fight lasted 3 seconds. Danny's blade found the weak point in its shell and the creature collapsed. Keep moving. Our target is the central nerve cluster. Greg said it looks like a giant brain. Hard to miss. The Marines fought their way deeper into the ship. The Kryn kept coming, wave after wave, but they fought like animals following instinct. The humans fought like soldiers with strategy and adaptation. When a corridor proved too narrow, they blew through the walls. When enemies attacked from above, they used the gravity generators against them. When ammunition ran low, they picked up Kryn weapons and used those. "I found it," shouted Corporal Jennifer Lee. "The nerve cluster is through this wall." "Plant the charges," Danny ordered. They had 30 seconds to get clear. The Marines ran back the way they came, fighting the entire way. The explosion, when it happened, was felt throughout the ship. The lights went out, the gravity failed, and the Kryn warriors stopped coordinating. "All teams, this is Torres. Package delivered. Get out now." The Marines made it back to their transport with seconds to spare. Behind them, the Kryn cruiser began to break apart, its biological systems dying without the central nerve cluster to coordinate them. Danny looked at his team. 3 of his 30 soldiers had not made it back. He would remember their names forever, but they had completed the mission. Across the battlefield, similar stories were playing out. Human ships sacrificed themselves to take out larger targets. Human pilots flew impossible maneuvers that killed Kryn fighters by the hundreds. Human Marines boarded ship after ship, destroying them from the inside. The Council fleet, watching in amazement, began to understand. This was what real warfare looked like. This was what happened when a species that had spent 10,000 years fighting itself turned that experience against a common enemy. Admiral Patricia Hayes watched the tide turn. The Kryn fleet, which had seemed unstoppable, was breaking apart. Their coordination was gone. Their numbers, while still superior, meant nothing when they could not work together. "All Council ships, this is Admiral Hayes. Now is your chance. Push forward. Take back your space." The Council vessels, inspired by human courage, began to fight with new determination. They were still defensive in nature, still cautious, but they were no longer running. They held the line. The battle lasted 14 hours total. By the end, the Kryn fleet was shattered. The survivors fled into dark space, leaving behind over half their original numbers. The Council fleet had taken heavy casualties, but Chorus 7 was saved. The human cost was severe. 18 ships destroyed, including the Marathon. Over 3,000 crew members killed. Another 2,000 wounded. It was the bloodiest day in space combat that Earth had ever seen. As the surviving human ships regrouped, Patricia allowed herself a moment of grief. 3,000 families would receive terrible news. 3,000 lives ended far from home. But 8 million civilians on Chorus 7 would live because of their sacrifice. That was the bargain of war. That was the price of protection. That was what humans understood, and the Council was just beginning to learn. 6 months after humanity joined the Galactic Council, the emergency alert reached Earth at 3 a.m. Admiral Patricia Hayes was pulled from sleep by the urgent call. She arrived at Command Central, still buttoning her uniform, her gray hair hastily tied back. The main screen showed a live feed from the Council station. Speaker Vornathus looked like he had aged 10 years in the past week. His silver scales were dull, and his clawed hands shook slightly as he spoke. "Admiral Hayes, the situation is dire. The Kryn hive has emerged from dark space. They have already taken 4 outer worlds. Our defensive fleet cannot stop them. We are requesting military assistance from all member species, including Earth." Patricia studied the tactical display. The Kryn were shown as red dots on the map, thousands of them spreading like a disease across the galactic arm. "Tell me about this enemy, Speaker. Our records do not mention them." A new figure appeared on screen. Commander Zrel Toth, the Viridian who had first rescued Jake Morrison, looked exhausted. The Kryn are an insectoid species. They exist in hive structures with millions of individuals controlled by queen minds. They do not negotiate, do not trade, and do not stop. They consume worlds, break down all biological matter, and use it to fuel their expansion. "How long has it been since they were last active?" Patricia asked. 300 cycles. We thought they were extinct." We were wrong. Patricia pulled up more data. The Kryn ships were organic, grown rather than built. Each vessel was essentially a living creature. able to repair itself and adapt to threats. Their warriors were similarly biological, with hard shells and multiple limbs designed for killing. "What is your defensive capability?" she asked. Sreltoth sent over fleet compositions. Patricia felt her stomach drop as she read them. The Council had ships, yes, but they were designed for peacekeeping and patrol. Their weapons were meant to disable, not destroy. Their tactics were defensive, focused on protecting trade routes and responding to emergencies. They had no idea how to fight a real war. "I will need to speak with our military leaders," Patricia said. "Give me 2 hours." The meeting that followed was heated. General Carlos Martinez represented the ground forces, a stern man with decades of combat experience. Admiral Frank Cooper commanded the space fleet, a strategic genius who had risen through the ranks during peacetime. Dr. Greg Palmer joined via video link from the Council station, providing scientific analysis. "We have 48 warships capable of deep space operations," Frank said. "They were built for defending Earth and exploring nearby systems. They were not designed for this kind of combat." "The Council saved our people when the Endeavor failed," Jake Morrison reminded them. He was now a Commodore, serving as Earth's military liaison to the Council. "They gave us medical care, shared their knowledge, and welcomed us despite their fears. Now they need us." "We would be committing our entire fleet to a war light years from home," Carlos argued. "If we lose, Earth has no protection." "If the Kryn win, they will eventually reach Earth anyway," Greg said from his screen. "These creatures do not stop. They will consume the entire galaxy if no one stands against them." Patricia listened to all sides, then made her decision. "We go. Not because we have to, but because it is the right thing to do. Besides, if we are going to be part of this galactic community, we need to prove we are willing to fight for it." "How do we fight an enemy that outnumbers us this badly?" Frank asked. Greg pulled up biological data on the Kryn. "They are strong and numerous, but they have weaknesses. Their hive structure means they rely on coordination. Disrupt that coordination, and individual units become less effective. They regenerate damage quickly, but extreme heat or cold can slow that process. And most importantly, they are predictable. They follow patterns, use the same tactics repeatedly. They do not innovate during battle." "So we innovate," Patricia said, a grim smile crossing her face. "We show them what 10,000 years of human warfare has taught us." The Earth fleet launched 72 hours later. 48 warships, small by galactic standards but carrying crew members who understood violence in a way the Council species did not. These were men and women whose ancestors had fought with spears and swords, with arrows and guns, with tanks and aircraft. War was in their blood, passed down through countless generations. Commander Amy Sullivan led the fighter squadrons. She had trained hundreds of pilots in the past 6 months, preparing them for combat in space. Her ships were fast and maneuverable, designed to slip between larger vessels and strike at weak points. Lieutenant Danny Torres commanded the Marine detachment. His soldiers were equipped with weapons designed for boarding actions and close combat. They had trained in zero gravity, learned to fight in environments that would kill unprotected humans in seconds. Jake Morrison served as tactical coordinator, working with both human and Council forces. He had spent months studying galactic military doctrine and had been horrified by what he found. The Council did not really have military doctrine. They had security procedures and emergency protocols, but they had forgotten how to wage war. The journey to the front lines took 3 days. During that time, Patricia held constant meetings with Council military leaders trying to explain human tactical thinking. It was like teaching fish to climb trees. These aliens understood defense but not offense. They knew how to retreat and regroup but not how to press an advantage. "Why would you deliberately damage your own ship as a weapon?" asked a Council admiral, a floating jellyfish-like creature from the planet Thessia. "Because sometimes sacrificing one ship can destroy 10 enemy vessels," Patricia explained. "It is called a tactical exchange. You trade something small for something large, but the crew dies. Sometimes, that is why it is a last resort. But when the choice is between one ship dying or an entire planet being consumed, humans make that choice." The concept seemed to disturb the Council officers, but Patricia saw a few of them nodding and understanding. They were beginning to grasp what made humans different. It was not that humans did not value life. It was that humans understood that some things were worth dying for. When they finally reached the war zone, the situation was worse than expected. The Kryn had surrounded the colony world of Chorus 7 with over 2,000 ships. The Council defense fleet of 300 vessels was barely holding the line. The planet below held 8 million civilians, mostly thin colonists who were preparing for evacuation. But there was nowhere to evacuate to. The Kryn had blocked all escape routes. Patricia surveyed the battlefield from the bridge of the EAS Valiant, humanity's largest carrier. Around her, crew members worked at their stations with focused intensity. On the main screen, she could see Kryn vessels swarming like insects around a light. All human ships, this is Admiral Hayes. Battle stations. Prepare for combat insertion. The Council Admiral sent a worried message. Admiral, you should wait for reinforcements. The Kryn outnumber us significantly. Reinforcements are weeks away, Patricia replied. Those people down there do not have weeks. They have hours, maybe days. We go now. She switched to the fleet-wide channel. All ships, listen up. We are outnumbered, outgunned, and a long way from home. The enemy thinks we will fight like the Council, defensive and cautious. So we are going to do what humans do best. We are going to be unpredictable, aggressive, and absolutely relentless. We are going to hit them so hard they forget their own names. Make Earth proud. The human fleet accelerated toward the battle, and the Kryn turned to meet them. Neither side knew it yet. But this engagement would change the course of galactic history. The Battle of Chorus 7 was about to begin. 3 months had passed since Commander Zreltoth found the humans drifting in space. Those 3 months had been busy ones for Jake Morrison and his crew. They had learned a new language, studied the basics of galactic society, and prepared themselves for the most important meeting of their lives. Now they stood in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, surrounded by representatives from 47 different alien species. The chamber was enormous, with a high ceiling that seemed to stretch up forever. Each species had their own section, designed to accommodate their unique needs. Some sat in chairs, some floated in tanks of liquid, and others hung from the ceiling on special perches. Jake wore his best uniform, cleaned and pressed despite being 3 months old. Beside him stood Amy Sullivan, Dr. Greg Palmer, and Lisa Warren. Greg was their scientist, a man with gray hair and kind eyes who had spent the voyage here studying everything he could about alien biology. Lisa was their language expert, a young woman with dark hair who had mastered Galactic Common in just 6 weeks. At the center of the chamber sat Council Speaker Vornathus. He was a Centrosian, a species that looked somewhat like Earth's lizards but stood upright and had silver scales that glinted under the lights. His eyes were ancient and wise, having seen many cycles of galactic history. We welcome the humans of Earth to this chamber, Vornathus said, his voice deep and formal. You have come far to reach us, though your arrival was not planned. We have many questions about your species and your world. Jake stepped forward and bowed slightly, the way Lisa had taught him. Thank you, Speaker. We are honored to be here. We came to space looking for knowledge and friendship. We are glad to have found both. What followed was hours of questions. At first, they seemed normal. The Council wanted to know about Earth's location, its environment, and its resources. They asked about human technology and how long humans had been capable of space travel. Jake answered honestly. Humanity was new to this, barely able to leave their own solar system before the Endeavor's test flight. But then the questions changed. They became more personal, more specific. A being made of crystalline structures that pulsed with light spoke up. Tell us about your evolution. How did your species develop intelligence? Greg Palmer moved forward to answer. He was more comfortable with science than politics. Humans evolved on the African continent of Earth. Our ancestors were persistence hunters. We would chase prey animals for hours, sometimes days, until they collapsed from exhaustion. We could not run as fast as many animals, but we could run longer than anything else. The chamber became very quiet. Several alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some whispered to each other in languages the humans could not understand. Greg continued, not noticing the reaction. Our forward-facing eyes helped us track prey. Our ability to sweat kept us cool during long chases. Our intelligence helped us work together in groups to bring down larger animals. Everything about us developed to make us better hunters. And you still eat meat? Asked another delegate, a furry creature with 6 legs and large ears. Yes, though we also eat plants. We are omnivores. More whispers filled the chamber. Jake began to understand what was happening. These aliens were afraid. Most of them had evolved from prey animals, creatures that ran and hid from danger. They had built this peaceful society because that was their nature. And now they were faced with a species that had evolved to chase, to hunt, to kill. Lisa stepped forward, trying to ease the tension. But humans are not just hunters. We developed art, music, and philosophy. We care for our sick and elderly. We form deep emotional bonds with each other. We are complex beings with many different aspects to our nature. A delegate near the back spoke up. His species was tall and thin, with skin that changed colors like a mood ring. We have studied the data you provided about Earth's history. Your species has fought over 7,000 documented wars. You have killed billions of your own kind. How can we trust you will not bring violence to our peaceful federation? The question hung in the air like a weight. Jake felt his jaw tighten. He had known this question would come, but it still made him angry. Not because it was unfair, but because it was true. You want to know if we are dangerous? Jake said, his voice firm. Yes, we are. We have fought wars. We have made terrible mistakes. We have hurt each other in ways that shame us. But we have also learned from those mistakes. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as he could. We stopped our last World War 70 years ago. Since then, we have worked together as one species. We explore space as a united planet. We came out here looking for friends, not enemies. We are trying to be better than our past. Amy spoke up, her voice softer but no less firm. Every species in this council evolved somehow. You say you are peaceful, but I see weapons on this station. I see security forces and defensive fleets. You have prepared for danger even if you do not seek it. That is all we are. Prepared but hopeful. Fornathus raised one clawed hand for silence. Thank you for your honesty. We must now deliberate. Please wait outside while we discuss your application for council membership. Jake and his team were led to a waiting room. The walls were transparent, showing a view of the massive space station they were on. Thousands of ships moved in organized patterns around it like a dance performed by metal and light. That could have gone better, Greg said quietly. We told the truth, Lisa replied. That is all we can do. They waited for 6 hours. During that time, they could see the council chamber through a monitor. The delegates were arguing, though the sound was turned off. Some appeared angry, gesturing wildly. Others seemed to be pleading or explaining. It was clear that the decision was not easy. Finally, a messenger arrived and brought them back to the chamber. Jake's heart was pounding as they entered. This moment would determine humanity's future. Would they be welcomed into galactic society, or sent home and told to never return? Fornathus looked tired. His scales had lost some of their shine. We have made our decision. The Council has voted to grant humanity provisional membership. You will be allowed to establish diplomatic relations and trade agreements. However, there will be conditions. What conditions? Jake asked. Your military vessels will not be permitted to enter Council space without prior authorization. Human colonies may only be established in designated zones, and your species will be closely monitored for the next 10 cycles to ensure you do not pose a threat to galactic peace. Jake wanted to argue, wanted to say this was unfair treatment, but Lisa put a hand on his arm. She was right. This was better than rejection. This was a chance. We accept your conditions, Jake said, and we thank you for giving us this opportunity. We will prove ourselves worthy of your trust. We hope you will, Fornathus replied. But understand this, Captain Morrison. The galaxy has been at peace for 12,000 cycles. We will not allow that peace to be broken, not even by a species as fascinating as yours. As they left the chamber, Jake felt a mix of emotions. Relief that they had been accepted, frustration at being treated like criminals, and determination to show these aliens what humans really were. They did not know it yet, but they would get that chance much sooner than anyone expected. The galaxy's long peace was about to end, and when it did, the Council would learn why predators evolved the way they did. Sometimes the galaxy needed hunters, and humanity was about to show them exactly what that meant. The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Commander Zreltoth stood on the bridge of his patrol ship, watching the stars through the viewing screen. He had been doing this job for 12 cycles now, and nothing interesting ever happened out here on the outer rim. That was fine with him. Boring was good. Boring meant peace. His species, the Viridians, had tall bodies covered in smooth green skin. Their eyes sat on stalks that could move independently, and they had forearms that ended in delicate fingers. Like most species in the Galactic Council, they had evolved from creatures that ran from danger rather than fought it. War was something their ancestors had left behind thousands of years ago. The council was made up of 47 different species, all living together in peace. They traded goods, shared knowledge, and helped each other when problems arose. Some species were good at building things, others were good at growing food, and some were excellent at science. Everyone had their place and everyone got along. Zreltoth was checking the daily reports when his sensor officer made a sound of surprise. "Commander, I am detecting something unusual. There is a small ship ahead and it appears to be in distress." "Show me," Zreltoth said, moving closer to the display. The ship that appeared on screen was strange. It had a design Zreltoth had never seen before, with hard angles and rough construction. Smoke was coming from one section, and its energy readings were dropping fast. The vessel was broadcasting signals on multiple frequencies, clearly calling for help. "Can we understand their language?" Zreltoth asked. "No, Commander. The computer does not recognize it. But the tone and pattern suggest they need assistance." Zreltoth's 4 hands moved across the controls. Council law was clear on this matter. When someone needed help, you helped them. It did not matter who they were or where they came from. Prepare the translation protocols. Tell them we are coming to assist. Inside the damaged ship, Captain Jake Morrison was trying to keep his crew alive. The control room was cold, getting colder by the minute, and the air was starting to smell stale. Red lights flashed across every panel, warning of systems failing one after another. Jake was a tall man with short brown hair and tired eyes. He had been awake for nearly 2 days straight, trying to fix their experimental engine. This was supposed to be humanity's first big step into deep space, a test of their new faster-than-light drive. Instead, it had become a disaster. "How much oxygen do we have left?" he asked. Lieutenant Amy Sullivan checked her console. She was a skilled pilot with blonde hair tied back in a tight bun. Her hands were steady even though her voice showed worry. 6 hours, maybe 7 if we reduce activity to minimum. "And the engine?" "Dead. Whatever happened when we jumped, it burned out completely. We are not going anywhere under our own power." Jake looked at the 5 other crew members in the room. They were all watching him, waiting for him to tell them what to do. He was their captain, their leader, and right now he had no good answers to give them. "There is a ship approaching," Amy said suddenly. "Unknown design. They are sending us some kind of signal. Put it on screen." The being that appeared was unlike anything Jake had ever imagined. Green skin, eyes on stalks, 4 arms. It looked alien in every possible way. But it was clearly intelligent, and it seemed to be trying to communicate. The ship's computer started working on translation. It took several minutes of back-and-forth signals before words started making sense. The alien's voice came through, translated into English. "This is Commander Zreltoth of the Viridian Fleet. We have received your distress call. Do you require assistance?" Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him. "Yes, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Endeavor. Our life support is failing. We have 6 people aboard. We need help." There was a pause. Then Zreltoth spoke again. "We will bring you aboard our ship. Prepare for transport beam." Jake had no idea what a transport beam was, but at this point he would take any help they could get. "Thank you, Commander. We are ready." What happened next felt like a dream. A bright light filled the room, and Jake felt a strange tingling sensation all over his body. When the light faded, he was no longer on the Endeavor. He was standing in a large room with his entire crew surrounded by aliens. Zreltoth approached them slowly. His eye stalks moved independently, studying the humans from different angles. The other Viridians on the ship stayed back, watching carefully. "Welcome aboard," Zreltoth said. "You are safe now. We will provide you with food, air, and medical attention if needed." "Thank you," Jake said. "You saved our lives." As Zreltoth looked at the humans, something made him uncomfortable. He could not quite identify what it was, but these beings were different from any species he had encountered. Their eyes faced forward, both pointing the same direction. Their teeth were visible when they spoke, and they looked sharp. Their bodies were built with heavy muscles, and they stood in a way that suggested they were always ready to move quickly. These were predators. Everything about them screamed hunter, and that made Zreltoth very nervous. In all his years of service, Zreltoth had met dozens of species. Most, like his own people, had evolved from prey animals. They had learned to be smart, to work together, to avoid danger. A few species had evolved as omnivores, eating both plants and other creatures, but he had never met a species that looked like it had evolved specifically to chase down and kill other animals. That is exactly what humans looked like. Zreltoth kept his concerns to himself for now. These beings needed help and council law was clear. But as soon as the humans were settled into their quarters, he sent an urgent message to council headquarters. This is Commander Zreltoth reporting. I have made contact with a new species. They call themselves humans from a planet called Earth. They appear to be intelligent and capable of space travel. However, I must note that they show clear signs of being natural predators. Physical characteristics include forward-facing eyes, visible canine teeth, and muscular build consistent with pursuit hunting. I recommend caution in future interactions. Please advise on how to proceed. He sent the message and waited for a response. In the meantime, he would observe these humans closely. The galaxy had been at peace for so long that most species had forgotten what danger looked like. But Zreltoth's ancestors had known, and some part of that knowledge remained in his genetic memory. These humans were dangerous. He could feel it in his bones. The question was whether they would choose to be dangerous to the council, or if they could be reasoned with and made into friends. The answer to that question would shape the future of the entire galaxy. But neither Zreltoth nor Jake Morrison knew that yet. For now, they were just two beings from different worlds trying to understand each other in the vast darkness of space. The Endeavor floated dead in the void, a small piece of Earth lost among the stars. And aboard the Viridian ship, humanity's first contact with the greater galaxy had begun.